Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. My name is Chet. Here we are, episode number 224, the third video episode of the podcast, which you can get on Patreon for now. I am going to release these all publicly once I get all the old podcasts turned into videos for YouTube. So that's going to happen. That's in the plan. Anyway, how is everybody? Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we have a great interview with the amazing artist, illustrator, creature designer, entrepreneur, Bobby Chiu. This is a great episode. I just did it a couple hours ago, and it was a really great, fun conversation. We kind of had to stop it because it was just, I feel like I barely scratched the surface on his career, and we talked for a couple hours there. So he's going to come back on, but it was a really great episode, and you're about to hear it. Starts off weird too. We get right into the weird stuff, which, I love. So yeah, that's coming up. What am I doing? I ask myself that all the time. I have been working on getting mystery boxes done for my Black Friday, Cyber Monday, whatever sale. Gotta get new product out because I make a good amount of income, my yearly income this time of the year around the holidays. So I've just been kind of dealing with that. Same old stuff I mentioned before, finishing commission work, stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, and just marveling at the crazy world around me. So if you want to join, go to patreon.com/darkartsociety and you can join for $1 and get in the private Facebook group. Right now, there's a conversation going on about what do we do for the website, which is darkartsociety.com, kind of the home base. And so everyone's pitching their ideas in. It's really cool. So if you want to be a part of that, you could do it for just $1 a month. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Chet Zar. You can also join for only $1 a month. You know what? I know what's going on. A little sidetrack here, but this is new, something I'm thinking about. Two things, actually. One is a friend of mine's helping me set up a foundation app profile so I can try my hand at NFTs. I'm going to give it a shot. I've been learning a lot about them this year before trying them out, and the idea is intriguing. The more I learn about it, the potential of blockchain technology is just trips me out and is kind of exciting. So there's that. And then I also have a Dark Art Society YouTube page all ready to go. And I'm going to start uploading episodes of the podcast to YouTube. And so I have to convert them all. Like I mentioned before, I have to convert them into videos, put them on YouTube, and possibly do like cut short clips of the podcasts for YouTube, like other podcasts do, other big podcasts do. So I just want to get the word out there to more people. And I think YouTube's a great way to do that. So that's kind of one project that's happening in the Dark Art Society. I think there's so many cool interviews on this show that it's more people need to hear it because it's too good. Not tooting my own horn. It's the artists that make the show great, and just really interesting interviews. I just think it's so good. So I want more people to hear it, more people to have access to it. So coming to YouTube soon, as soon as we get that together. And yeah, just trying to grow this thing. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now that we have the video podcast, these will be easy to put to YouTube. because I have an audio version and a video version. And yeah, I guess that's what's new. Okay. I'm starting to ramble. Let's go with the let's talk about new subscribers. I think we've got a couple this month. Okay, we've got 2 new subscribers to the Dark Art Society Patreon. And that is Luna. Thank you, Luna, and C Griffiths SI. Thank you for supporting both of you. You make it happen. I guess that's it. This video format is tripping me out a bit. I'm still getting used to it. It's a different workflow, but I like it. I think it's good. I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you are in the Patreon and you see the video podcast, do you enjoy it? I think it's good for, getting a wider audience and, putting things on YouTube. That's kind of why I'm doing it. So that's it. Enough of me talking crap. Let's get on with the interview. Bobby Chiu, super cool guy, really talented, and great interview. Get ready for some weird stuff and some interesting stuff. And let's just do it. I don't think I have anything else to say. All right. Enjoy the interview. Here we go. Bobby Chiu. What's up, Bobby?
What's up, Chet? Good to see you.
You too. Thank you for coming on the show, man. I had such a good time talking to you last time on your show.
Yeah, like some people, when you meet them, it's not very often, but hopefully it's more often than not. You can tell, like, if you guys were in the same room at the same bar or whatever, you'd be hanging out,
yeah,
chatting it up.
Totally.
Yeah,
that's what's so great. I love, one of the reasons I love doing these podcasts is you just kind of like, aside from learning all these interesting things about different artists, you just connect with people, and like that you would never, we would, who knows if we'd ever connect otherwise. And it's like, it's weird. It's a weird thing when you meet. It's kind of like people you meet that you feel like you've known already, It's a weird
do you believe
thing.
in like how people say, "Oh, I was this in life before
Reincarnation.
this one."
Yeah. I mean, I'm reality is so weird that I just don't presume to discount anything that makes sense to me in some way, at least. There's aside from the idea of reincarnation, there's ways of interpreting reincarnation too. Like if everything is like this huge collective intelligence, then we all have been every consciousness that's ever existed in this reality. So it's kind of like we've all been reincarnated as everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I forget which religion or whatever. Maybe it's maybe
Hinduism, Buddhism, or
I want to say Buddhism, but like I don't know, where it's like if you're at a kind of lower level of consciousness, you may come back most likely as like an animal or
right,
like a bug, like
right,
something really low.
Yeah, I've throughout my life I've kind of gone back and forth because my mom was kind of into that sort of thing, reincarnation, and then it just seemed like no, and then it's like other times. Right now I'm in a phase of it kind of makes sense, because certain people just, you meet people and they feel like they're older. It's a cliche, but they're like older souls, and then you meet people and it doesn't seem like they just don't have the same kind of depth to them, to their personalities. It's weird.
Yeah, new soul. Yeah, totally. I had I have a friend where his son, I've known the son since he was like 3.
Mm-hmm.
and he's never liked toys.
Hmm.
But if it was a gun, you know, like a Nerf gun or a BB gun or any kind of like super soaker, like a gun,
Right.
he would be totally into it. And he was always like thinking, I'm going to, that's going to be part of my profession somehow.
Wow.
Yeah. And now he's a Marine, you know?
Wow. What a, you know, that reminds me, I had a friend whose little brother, when he was a little kid, I think probably, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years old, woke up in the middle of the night. Oh, he would always, whenever they would go to like they went to a military museum, and there was a military airplane, and he was pointing to it saying, like, I flew one, I know how to fly that, or I flew one of those. And at one point too, he had woken up from a dream, or he didn't even, he got up out of the dream, he was still asleep, and he drew this picture that was way better, because we used to all of us were kind of art kids, and it was way better than he would normally draw. It was really like, it kind of advanced for his skill level, and it was a guy, a military guy, getting shot. And there was some kind of like, you know, him saying, yeah, this was me or something, you know. So it was like really freaky.
Yeah. When we did our podcast, when I was interviewing you, that was like around the time of Halloween. So we are talking about some
Right.
creepy things. And I think I might have mentioned, like, I have some stories that,
Oh, that's right.
right? And that kind of relates to what you were saying. The guy got up in the middle of the night or something and drew something, and it wasn't really him,
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, so I got one.
Okay.
Whether this is true or not, you know, if there's doubters, that's fine, because there's
Yeah.
a part of me that doubts it, right?
Right.
Okay, so my mom or my grandmother on my dad's side passes away when I was about 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and my dad has always told me, he has his own crazy stories,
Mm-hmm.
where he said that he saw his grandfather, you know, at his place when he was about 9 or 10, just outside his place in the woods or whatever, as he was walking home. And the grandfather actually died like 2 hours before that in a train
Wow.
accident in another city.
Wow.
Right. And so he comes in and tells his mother, my grandmother. And then when I asked her when she was alive, she said, yeah, he said it like very innocently. He wasn't trying to make anything up. And he said, when did grandfather get here? You know, the
Wow.
whole conversation. So anyways, fast forward that to my dad going, Bobby, when it's my time, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to see you, Bobby. Don't be afraid. I'm like, when I was a kid, I'd be like, that's some scary shit.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Right.
was like thinking, I don't want that. I don't want that. But he was saying, you know, if you ever see one of your loved ones, especially family,
Mm-hmm.
after they die, don't be afraid, right?
Right.
Embrace the opportunity and communicate with them. And he goes, if it's me, ask me for the lottery numbers. Who knows?
Right. Right.
Right.
I'll hook you up.
Right. So then fast forward, I'm 16 years old. My grandmother passes away on my dad's side, the one that my dad said, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
thing about the grandfather. And a few days after, I have this dream, a dream that I've never had anything similar to this before, because this dream had no background. It was
Mm-hmm.
just black, like Stranger Things kind of thing, the upside down world or whatever it's
Mm-hmm.
called, right? And there's my grandmother. She's just standing there. And I go up to her. I'm like, Grandma, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm so sorry you passed.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to me, I have to go. Right. And that's
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm like, oh, but like, are you okay? You know, she's like, I have to go. And that's what she says again. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything I ask her, I don't ask her too much. So then before she goes, I'm like, before you go, Grandma, what are the lotto numbers? Right? And so in my dream, she tells me these 6 numbers. And I think I get up. I think I look over on my nightstand. I grab a piece of paper out of the drawer and I write those 6 numbers down before I fall asleep again. And then I fall asleep. I wake up in the next day, almost like in sweat, going like, what the hell is that? I look over on the nightstand and there, Chet, is a piece of paper with 6 numbers. I actually did get up and write down those 6 numbers.
Wow.
Right. So I put that in my wallet. I go hang out with a friend of mine that's older. We're smoking cigarettes or whatever. And then I go to him. I'm like, hey, Mike, you think you can buy me a lotto? And he's like, because I'm 16, I can't buy lotto yet.
Right.
You have to be 18. And he goes to me, is like, yeah, sure. Why? As we're going to the convenience store. And I tell him along the way the story. He's like, oh, okay, whatever. Gets me the lotto, comes out. And that's it. We hang out, we leave. And that night was the draw, right? So this is after a couple of days after that dream, meet up with my friend, get the lotto. And then that night's the draw. I wake up super early, of course, because back then, you have to get the newspaper to find out the lottery numbers. I get the newspaper. I look at the numbers. I compare them to my lottery ticket. And none of them match. None of the numbers match. Right? And so I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. It's a dream.
You tried.
And then that night, I go to sleep. And it's the same kind of dream. No background. Just empty darkness. And I see my grandmother there. Grandma. And she goes to me, I have to go. The same kind of thing, right? And I'm like, okay, hold on. Before you go, why didn't I win the lottery numbers? I didn't get one single number. And she goes to me, that's because that money was fated for you and only you, but your friend bought a ticket as well. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And so I go on with my life, right? And then a couple weeks pass. I meet up with my friend again. Probably smoking cigarettes or something. And I'm like, hey, Mike, you remember that lotto that you got for me? And he was like, yeah, that was crazy, huh? And I was like, yeah, guess what? I actually didn't win one single number. And he goes, yeah, I know. After you told me that story, I bought a ticket for myself as well.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's crazy, man. The thing is, it's like, it's crazy, but almost everybody has at least one story like this, some kind of like unexplainable, weird thing. And it's like, it's just strange that it's because it's not provable. It's just considered, people just go, oh, I don't know, it's nothing because there's no way to quantify it scientifically, but it's like it still happens,
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I still believe it,
right?
Even to this day, and especially as the years go on, sometimes stories feel more like real, like just stories,
right? Yeah,
it's like, did that shit happen? Did I actually work on like what was the one, the Blob, and it's like, you probably are like thinking, I know I did, but it kind of feels like some fiction.
Right, absolutely. That I have to say, I have another story too now that's similar to that one, and then we're going to get into your backstory and stuff, because we started off on this podcast on a like absolute tear. We don't normally get to the juicy stuff until the second half, but I love it. But I remember when I was like 12 years old. No, let me see. He was maybe 14. We were 14 years old. I was talking to my best friend. We used to talk on the phone like girls all the time, just like, uh, just, we just, talk on the phone all the time, every night. And one night, this is back in the day of call waiting, this is early 80s. And he goes, "Oh, hold on, someone's calling." And he clicks over, and then he comes back after a couple minutes. And he said, "Oh, that was my uncle, blah, blah, whatever. He just was asking for my mom." Or he said to say goodbye to my mom or something. And then we find out, I think it was the next day, that he had been dead for 2 weeks and nobody knew about it. So, and he actually had to go into the house with his mother to go see what was up, and he was there dead, and he found him. And
Wow.
yeah. And so that was kind of like, that was his experience, but I kind of experienced it as well, unless he was just making it up, which seems he wasn't. I just know we're just kids. So that was kind of something we both experienced at the same time. Proof enough for me that just reality is just so weird.
Yeah. Before, do you ever have any kind of go-to questions that are just like, usually it gets something good out of somebody? Do you ever have any questions like that?
For the podcast, you mean? Like
podcast or party? Like this, for me,
yeah.
this was like a party kind of question.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's something like, have you seen a ghost, or have you ever had a weird, unexplainable, like a paranormal experience, something along those lines.
My question that I would ask sometimes, a lot less now, is, was there ever a moment in your life where if things just turned a different direction, just slightly, one little decision, that maybe you wouldn't be on this earth anymore?
That is a great question, because I can think of 2 times off the top of my head where I could have died. Like I was that close to being killed by doing something stupid,
Well, I know this is like supposed to be my thing, but yeah, I'd love to hear.
Well, one time, both of them were just stupid. Honestly, it kind of makes me believe in, it sounds cheesy, but it kind of makes me believe in that I have a guardian angel, because or whatever that would be in a scientific realm, when that gets cracked and these things are discovered to be actual phenomenon of some type. That's the only, it's not a very good term, but I've always felt like I sort of had some kind of protective force or protector around me. I just have always kind of felt that. But one time I was climbing down a cliff when I was 15, 14, 13, just down. I lived in San Pedro, so it's on the coast, and there was these cliffs that was like, oh, this looks like shouldn't be too hard to climb. It was a cliff straight down, and it was a really high cliff, and me and my friend just started climbing. I think we went down along the beach, and then we climbed up. Or did we climb down? I don't remember what we did it, but I remember being like halfway down the cliff or up the cliff and looking down and going, this was a really bad idea. It was like, if I would have slipped just a little bit, there was no way I wouldn't have died. It was that high up. It wasn't like, oh, you would have broken your leg. It's like, oh, you would have for sure died. It was really high. So there was that time. And then there was another time where me and bored teenagers, 16-year-old kids, driving around the neighborhood at night, hanging onto the roof of the car, like you're flying. It was insane. Yikes. I think, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But it was like, we were driving fast, and we were like taking turns driving each other around the block, like,
oh my God,
going like 70 miles an hour. It was so fucking stupid. I can't believe I did that. But at the same, and it's like, it would have just taken the tap of a brake, a cat running out, and someone, and just dead, for sure dead, So yeah, those are just 2 that come to mind.
I have probably at least like 3 or 4, I would
Yeah.
say. That was a very
Wild
crazy, wild
risk
kid.
taker. Yeah.
But one was kind of like when you're telling the car story, it reminded me. So I live in Toronto, Canada, and yes, it snows here, right?
Mhm.
So one winter it was really snowy, and so my friend's older brother could drive. I couldn't drive yet, and so he took out his car, and then we put bungee cords, like not bungee cords, but you know the things that you strap stuff down on your car.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are still called
They're kind
bungee
of,
cords.
are they the kind of ratchety ones that you sort of ratchet tight, or
There's like just hooks.
okay,
Just
yeah,
hooks,
yeah, yeah,
but
and like a
they're
nylon,
elastic,
yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, 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 like bungee
right?
cord.
So we put like 2 or 3 onto the back of the car. I think just like 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then one person would hold on to the other end and sit on a sled, you know, for going down the snow. And he would drive, and that person would hold on for dear life, and we would take turns. But you know, when he turns, right, that person behind him goes like this, like all
Right,
the way out here. If there's
right.
another car
Oh
coming
yeah, yeah.
during any of those turns, we would have got hit straight on.
Right. Yeah. That's so scary. It's terrifying.
Yeah. I'm
Make it
sure like probably 1,000 Bobbies in like the metaverse all died that
right.
at that moment.
Exactly. Yeah, it gives me, like, when I think about those times, I just feel this like pit in my stomach, like, oh man, I came so close. And for
Yeah.
and for something so stupid and foolish, but anyway, okay. Let's get let's get to the regular stuff first. And just to give people a background on you and your history,
Totally.
and I'm interested in your background and history, and yeah, your TV show. I'm so fascinated to know about how that. I'm dying to ask you about that. But yeah, just everything. There's a lot of things I want to ask you, but so let's see. Were you, obviously you were drawing and stuff when you were a kid, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
In the
Ever
genes,
since
in
I
the
was
blood.
2.
Okay, all
That's
right.
what my parents say.
Yeah, and then were they cool with it? Were they always supportive of it, or how did
They're
that
very
go?
supportive of it as a hobby,
Okay.
right? And I remember my mom saying that it's either like kindergarten, grade 1, 2, something like that, something very, when I was very little, the teacher was an artist and said, you know, he's really gifted. You should put him into this other school.
Mm.
And my mom always felt like super bad about it because, you know, we couldn't afford
Ah,
anything except for public school. You know,
right, right.
public school is free. Everybody can afford that. So, yeah. But um, it's always been a thing ever since I was little, before I
Okay.
could talk,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
kind of thing.
So I remember being so young, like I was drawing back. I remember being so young that I couldn't express what I was thinking in words, and I feeling the frustration of that, like having those complex thoughts but not being able to verbalize it. And I kind of think that that might have something to do with choosing to draw, to get things out of my head, maybe, because I'm still not good verbally. That's part of the reason I did this podcast. Is I was like, if I do this, it'll help me to become a better speaker and just speak more fluidly in general, and it definitely has helped. But I just, it's not a strong suit for me, like especially arguments or stuff like that, trying to make a point. It's like blah, 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 blah.
No,
So,
me too. My mom still has this report card from like kindergarten that says, you know, Bobby is a very good artist. He's always first to get his juice. And he doesn't talk to anybody.
yeah, I was super quiet, so quiet. I'm still, I'm very comfortable being not social, really, and just being in my own space, and I'm totally comfortable with that. That's why the lockdown was no trouble for me personally at all. Like
It's
I
like
had
3 weeks later, you're like, there's a lockdown.
yeah, right. It's like
Oh,
now
okay.
everybody else knows what my life is like. Um, so where were you born?
I was born in Taiwan.
Oh,
I
okay.
was born in Taipei, Taiwan.
Mm.
And then my parents, they immigrated over with me when I was about 2.5.
So
Um,
you don't have any memory, I imagine
I
of.
have one memory.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Yeah, it's of this penguin bath toy, and you wind it up, you put it in the water, and it kicks its feet.
And that's from Taiwan. That was
That
from.
was from Taiwan.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, what a trip!
Yeah, like 2 years old. I don't have a lot of very clear memories, I'm
Right.
not like one of those people, but
Same.
yeah, I do have that memory.
Wow. Okay. So and then you moved to Vancouver or somewhere else.
Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Toronto.
Yeah, we tried to move to Vancouver actually, but I think my dad couldn't find a job at the time in Vancouver, so we settled for Toronto.
So Vancouver is on the west side, and then
Hmm.
Toronto's on the east. Is that
East-ish. Yeah.
east-ish?
Yeah,
I'm not
it's close to New York.
right, right. Okay. Yeah, I guess like what super east is like Nova Scotia and stuff.
Right,
Okay,
right.
right. I don't my geography is not great, but
No, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
so you grew up that's you grew up there, so it seems like taking you there at such a young age is a good idea rather than having to like assimilate as like a 10-year-old or something. That would have
Oh,
been much
yeah.
more difficult, I imagine.
I feel like a tourist if I'm, back in Taiwan.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Interesting. So okay, so art kid,
Mhm.
were you into you're into creatures, were you into kind of fantasy stuff and creatures at an early age, or what kind of stuff were you
The
creating?
earliest memories of drawing anything was like underwater scenes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because well, first it was like I understood the wave part,
Yeah,
right? It's
right.
like, all right, I got
Yeah.
something going. And then
It's
the
funny when
fish
you're a kid,
thing,
you learn little tricks and then you're like, oh, I know
yeah,
I can do underwater now because I know this thing.
yeah, exactly. And then fish, they're relatively easy as well. They're
Right.
kind of like an 8, right?
Right.
And then you learn to draw more complex things like octopi,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
sharks, things like that. Yeah, but I've always been very naturally, like I always gravitated towards like the strange and unusual
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
Like Super Mario Brothers was a big thing for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, of course, that was a big thing for a lot of people,
Oh
but
yeah.
I think it was a big thing for me because it was weird. You
Hmm.
have these two plumbers and they're throwing hammers at
Totally weird.
these demon turtles and stuff like that,
It really is.
eating mushrooms.
Yeah, you take it for granted now because it's so embedded in the culture, but it really is
Hmm.
like trippy, kind of
Hmm.
psychedelic, weird, very bizarre. Like, who came up with that whole idea? It's so
Yeah,
strange. People were tripping who came up with that idea, I bet.
probably. Well, this is in Japan, so probably not.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Yeah, I don't know, man. I
we're
know
tripping
some,
off of a different thing.
maybe, yeah. I know some artists, some at least I know one Japanese artist who I'm sure trips. And so I'm sure there's some kind of underground scene there. But but a lot, some of the what are those Takea? Takea, the did the weird monster models in the 80s, do you know? I think, or maybe 90s. Uh his name is
Japanese names, honestly, it's like it's hard to remember
yeah,
unless they're like Miyazaki or something that you hear over and over and over
right.
again.
there's two guys. It was called, what was it called? Anyway, they did these monster like custom model kits. It's on the tip of my tongue. There was another guy too. Both of these guys, as far as I know, just like kind of didn't make any money, but they at it really working in these cramped little spaces. And the stuff was just like totally weird, mind blowing, like monsters that maybe wouldn't seem that weird nowadays because we have so much stuff and really influenced by guys like him. But again, I remember seeing that stuff and I was like, these guys must have they must have tripped or something, because this is so weird. But not necessarily true. I remember when I worked with Clive Barker, some of the stuff he had written I thought sounded very seemed psychedelic and trip inspired, and he said no. He's like, no, I think he said I tried it once and it really didn't do much for me. And it's like, that's tripping just accesses parts of your mind. Dreams are as weird as any trip, so it's really, do you have access to that part of your mind is the question if you're doing really weird stuff, I think.
Yeah.
And everybody does it when they dream. Everybody has crazy dreams.
Oh yeah, I've dreamt that I was a creature before.
Oh really?
I dreamt that I was a dodo bird one time.
Wow.
It was okay. Feel free to put your analysis in the comments, everybody. Let's take you on a trip. Okay, so I'm a dodo bird. I'm fat. I got little wings. I could fly a little bit. And so I can only get like maybe 8 feet off the ground, 9 feet off the ground. And there's these two guys after me. They're the burglars from Home Alone. This is when I was like, I think a teenager. And so I try real hard. I'm in this alley. They kind of cornered me in this alley. I start flapping my wings. I start flying up the building. I get to the top floor, and that's the penthouse. And my dad's in the penthouse. And I start squawking, start trying to get his attention to let me in, open up the window or the door or whatever. And I get his attention. He looks at me and he just stares. And then I'm just getting tired and I start floating back down. And before I get caught by the burglars, I wake up.
Wow. That's definitely some kind of strange insight into your psychology at the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too bad.
Well, a dodo bird is like it's like an extinct bird, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't exist anymore.
Right. So that's kind of interesting. Like feelings of I'm sure a psychologist would have a field day with that. But I mean, dreams are like that. Dreams are like that. I've been having epic dreams for the last, I don't know if I did last night, but the 2 nights before that, just, those dreams that just go all night long and like tons of stuff happens and you wake up and you just can't even remember. You could just remember like the last thing that happened in the dream.
Right.
It was like a whole story. It was like an 8-hour dream. I've been having those for some reason. I don't know why, maybe because of the full moon or something, but that's a whole other crazy subject to tackle, dreams.
I'll tell you, can I tell you another one?
Yeah.
I'll leave it short, so I'm in a building. I'm in my, I'm in like my home, but in dreams, a lot of times it's not really your home, but in the dream, it's your home. Anyways, I'm in like a apartment building quite high up, like maybe 12, 17 floors up. And I'm on the balcony, just hang out, looking at the view. I feel this rumbling, right? Hardcore rumbling, and gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm like yelling to my wife, like, babe, what's happening? My wife is just watching TV, kind of like the dad thing, like not really paying attention to me, right? Just watching TV. And then I'm like, okay, well, trying to just hold on. And then I realized that she doesn't really feel the rumbling. It's just where I am. And the side of the building starts to crack and starts to separate from the rest of the building.
Wow.
Right. So now this like sliver, like a thick wall kind of thing, is falling.
Oh my God.
My wife does not know. She's just watching TV.
It must be a good program.
Right. And the thing's falling. And before it lands onto the ground, I'm thinking, okay, I need to jump off just at that right moment, roll, and then I'll be okay. And that's what I do. I jump off, I do a roll, the building smashes on top of me, but I'm in a section where it's like the window, right? So I'm saved. It crashes around me. Everybody around me that sees this is like, holy shit. It was like this Chinese Spider-Man came down and then he survives. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive. I can't believe I survived. I run back upstairs and my wife's watching TV still. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe what happened. And she's like, babe, you won't believe what's happening on this TV right now. And then that's my dream.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh man, I had a really, have you ever had a lucid dream to where you are aware that you're dreaming in the dream?
Yeah, and I brought back machine guns to fight the zombies and the ghosts and stuff.
What? What?
Like I had this dream. The Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, the cartoon.
Yeah.
So I was like amongst the Ghostbusters. Maybe I was a Ghostbuster or whatever. And there's all these ghosts and monsters attacking me, and then I realize it's a dream. So I go like this, and then machine guns appear.
Oh, how cool.
I start to
That's awesome. I had, because I had I've had a number of them, lucid dreams, but I had one that was so significant. I dreamed I was just like, I don't know, I was in this like a hut or like a room, just kind of a room with like red light, kind of pink lights and red lights, and just like an empty room with a person sitting there. And then there was just like people walking around outside, and there was other little like it was almost like a series of small huts or something, or like bungalows. I don't know. It was really weird. Anyway, I was in the dream and I was like, oh, it's a dream. Okay. And then I was like, okay, I gotta not get distracted. I have to just keep, because that's the thing. It's like you remember and then you forget and then you go back into the dream. And I started doing stuff like flying around. And I remember there was a basketball hoop, and I like flew up to the basketball hoop and I like ate it. Like I took a bite out of the backboard of the it was like, just because I knew I could. So I was just doing all this weird stuff. And then I saw this person down there below, and I went and I told them, I was like, it's a dream. This is a dream. It's not real. And as soon as I started talking to them, they turned into this doll. Like, those dolls that you remember those, I don't know, they were from a long time ago. They're like these rubber, almost looks like a bowling pin, and you squeeze it and the eyes pop out. It was, remember those?
Yeah.
Just look like a simple, like a clown or something. They turn into like that kind of a looking doll. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's because they're not real. That person is not real. That's part of the dream. And so as soon as I like told them, it's like it made them turn into an object, which was really weird. And then I went to go tell everybody else in the dream. And as I was running to go tell them, I forgot. And I went back into the dream and just had a regular dream for the rest of it. But again, though, we're getting off on tangent. I want to know about you. Okay. So what was how was your career trajectory? Because you started professionally very young, right? Like at 17 or something.
Yeah, I got my first job. I was
How,
actually
how did it go up to that point, and then how did you get that job?
up to that point, and even a little bit after that point, I still didn't know that I was going to be an artist growing up,
Okay. How?
because it was always like, okay, your art is great, do it as a hobby. It's a great
Uh-huh.
hobby to have. Pursue other things. And so I was like 17. I get this job working in a warehouse. It's a company that makes toys for Disney, Pixar, Star
Mm,
Wars, all these cool things.
mm,
And also you get the art department gets the style guides of all these upcoming movies, right? And all
mm.
this upcoming art that nobody can see. It's confidential.
Right.
It's like that's the coolest thing ever. And so I would, I only worked in the warehouse for a little tiny bit, like I want to say less than a month. Um, but ever since I started working there, I would start to go to the art department, the tiny little art department, to have my lunch and learn this new software called Illustrator, right? And it was like Photoshop 3,
What year are we
layers.
talking? What year are we talking here?
Uh, 17, 95.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so, you know, layers was like the new big hot option function in Photoshop. Anyways, I learned it enough where there was a point where I'm bringing in these toys that we fixed in the back for the art department. Sometimes they ask for these kind of things.
Like, what do you
And
mean fix it? You're
so,
repairing toys or something broken?
yeah, like if toys come back and you can repair them, then you
Oh,
should
okay.
repair them. And then sometimes the art department wants these things for product shots, stuff like that,
Hmm.
for whatever they're going to be doing. So I'm bringing these toys. Everybody looks like they're really, really stressed, really, really busy, running around all over the place. And so I go to them. I'm like, it looks like you guys could use a hand. Can I help? Right. And the art director, she looks at the supervisor that's been teaching me, and he's like, yeah, let the kid try. I've been teaching him some stuff.
Oh, how cool.
And so I got to work on a computer, started doing stuff for them. And then they moved me from the warehouse to the art department.
Oh, cool.
That's how I got my first break.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you hadn't did you go to art? I thought you went to art college, or
I did. So
this is after, right?
yeah, after that, I worked there for, on and off, my off time pretty much, because I loved it, you know, for, so at least I graduated high school, and
Mhm.
then I went to business school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went to business management at
That's
a
probably served you well with all the stuff you do now. I
well, the thing
imagine.
was, this was business management, which means they groom you to become a slightly bigger cog in the machine,
Oh, right. Yeah.
not
Okay.
how to run
Not
your
an
own machine.
Yeah, not an entrepreneur necessarily, but more like
Right,
a manager that manages a
right. And the
business.
thing, yeah, my dad, he owned his own business for many years,
Hmm.
so I would credit him for a lot of the business sense.
Oh, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then I flunked out of business school. I went to one exam, uh, took some pastels and painted a cat on a accounting exam, and then I left. I never came back. Yeah.
That's great.
So after that, I went to art school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that? Was that a good experience?
It was good. It was great. It was a lot of, it was a lot of wonderful experiences, even the bad ones. A lot of times enough time passes and you're like, that was pretty awesome. you
Right.
know um I didn't want to take any money from my parents for school.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant I had to also be very scrappy
Mm-hmm.
and conservative. Um, yeah, so even those times, you know, you look back on them pretty fondly. I wish I had photos of you know, my lowest point when I only had a half a box of Cocoa Pebbles. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The lean years. You're
Yeah.
starting out. Okay. So how did you end up? I mean, where did you go from there? What happened next?
So I went to computer animation after attending animation at Sheridan College.
Mm.
Or actually, after I graduated animation, I graduated, you know, at the top of my class, but I couldn't get any decent jobs. And I applied for computer animation. Somehow I didn't get in. So I went back to the toy company, did a bunch of time there, went back to computer animation, graduated at the top of my class again, couldn't get a job.
Wow.
Or I worked at a television studio, but I was the data manager.
Ooh, sounds
Right.
rough.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. I enjoyed it actually.
What's a data manager? Well, what does that job
So
entail?
they give you these giant files that are coming in from like India or Ireland or whatever, like animation, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're literally mailed to you, these hard drives, and the whole entire hard drive, it might be like a gig, right? And you
Right.
that takes like an hour to port over to a server. And so yeah, so I just drew. I drew as the thing was copying over.
Oh, so you were just
Like,
copying files over basically.
yeah, and it was great. I had my own room and I was doing all these drawings. And then people would be like, oh, that's the computer guy. He likes to draw.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking like the late 90s at this point or early 2000s
No,
or
this is so went to college, went to like art school the year 2000.
okay.
And then did the animation program, then did a year working, and then back to animation, computer animation. It was like 2005 by the time I
Okay.
graduated.
Yeah,
Computer animation.
but the technology was still, like something like that was a big deal to get a gig hard drive and copy it to a server, just like all the
That
things
was
that could go
at that
wrong.
time.
And
Well, yeah, and for the youngins out there, at the time, there were writable DVDs. I'm not sure if there were rewritable DVDs
right,
at that
yeah,
time.
right.
Right. And you can only write your stuff on there one time, and that's it. And that was like $60 or something like that.
Right. Remember what were they called? Not the floppy disk, but the ones that were like so amazing because they were like
Flash
thick.
drive.
No,
Or
before flash drive, it was called I can't think of it. It looked like a big floppy disk, but it was like kind of thick, and you had to get a special little dock for it.
I definitely
Jazz
remember.
drive. Do you remember
Yeah.
jazz drives?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember a lot of drives. There was a
Yeah.
period where there was just a ton of different kind of drives.
All right. I remember those were like a jazz drive because you could store like 100 megabytes or something on it. It was like huge. I remember the company Alterian Studios that I worked for. They set up a digital department in around, I think it was a late 90s, mid 90s. I don't remember. And they got a server with all these hot swappable hard drives, and each hard drive was a whopping 64 megabytes or something like that. It was ridiculous. And we thought, it was just like a whole bunch of them. It was like a server full of them. It was just like, wow, there's so much storage.
Well, like if you want to bring it back, like before the internet, before when you had the phone on the modem and stuff and
Oh,
make all
right.
that noise.
Yeah.
back in those days, you had BBS sites.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And the pirate sites would have art on there to attract other pirates to, upload their pirated stuff.
Right.
And so that was probably one of the first things I did that I got paid money from a stranger to do art.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's called ANSI art back then.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what did you get paid for? Like to post a image that you drawn or something?
Yeah, I took one of these Batman covers of like, I think it was just like Batman's hand, and he's holding something. It looked really cool. And so the guy wanted that, and I made the ANSI version of it.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, hilarious. It's amazing. I mean, 10 years from now, it's just like it's so exciting also, it's funny because it's like, I don't know, you might have a different perspective in Canada because you guys are cool and chill and you're not all insane like America is, but the sense here is just like everything's collapsing, everything's going to shit, but at the same time all this new technology is happening. It's like equally exciting and hopeful, and you want to see it happen. And it's so weird to have just everything kind of collapsing and breaking down, and then all these new things just like right on the horizon are even happening now, with the whole metaverse and VR and blockchain. It's just like, what a crazy time to live in, man. I mean, really, it's kind of great if you're not like, super poor in a third world country or homeless or something. It's like, if you have an okay living situation, it's kind of an amazing time to be alive,
Yeah. Yesterday I was watching that movie Antoinette, Marie Antoinette.
Oh yeah.
It was like Kristen Dunst says,
Right.
Marie
Yeah. I
Antoinette.
remember. I don't think I saw it, but I remember that.
But just looking at that, it's like, yeah, the poorest person or generally the poorest people in your area have it probably equal or better than Marie Antoinette,
Right.
because like,
Right.
look at all the things we got, and we
Right.
have air conditioning. They didn't
Right.
have air conditioning, and they suffered. And
Right. And
heating
even
was like a new thing, central heating.
oh,
Or
right.
something.
Yeah. It's a trip. I mean, you can kind of be poor now and have a cell phone of some sort and get on the internet, which is really kind of cool too, so it's like, it's just such a weird time to be alive. It's just so weird. I think about it all the time. Like, it's so exciting and depressing at the same time, and it's just like everything, it's just kind of chaos. But anyway, I don't want
No, for sure.
I don't want to get sidetracked again. Okay, so continue on your career path. Where did you go from this point?
Right. So all my life though, like you probably would have guessed, when I asked could I be an artist, the answer was no. It was like, that's great as a hobby, do something else. Getting into school, I didn't get into the program I wanted at first, and then I graduated at the top of my class, couldn't get a good job, couldn't get into computer animation. Graduated from that at the top of my class, couldn't get a job again, became a data manager for a bit. And so, but I kept at the art thing. I never lost that direction that I was going in, and picked up really shitty, little art jobs here and there, to the point where I was doing about 8 hours a day at work and then 8 hours a day at night.
Oh, wow.
And that was heavy because you'd also have to commute and you have to shower and eat at some point, things like that. So at a point, something had to give. And so that was my job, my cushy job. I saved up enough money to, support myself for bunch of months. And so I ended up moving home to save more money, right? And then kept working on my freelance. My brother, he took over the family company and hated it.
But what was the family business?
It was kind of like, before FedEx,
Mm-hmm.
if you needed something moved, like anything from a computer to a helicopter or whatever, moved from like Taiwan to here or something, then that's what our company
Oh,
would be able
okay.
to do for you.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so he hated that, and I said, well, I didn't like my job either. How about we join forces and start an art studio?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and also at the same another thing that happened was after I moved home for a month, my parents were saying, they said, uh, you know, we are not worrying about you anymore. We know you're going to do fine. We know your brother's going to do fine. So we're moving back to Taiwan and we're selling the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I thought you liked it here. It's like, no, it's for you. It's like, okay,
Wow.
whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they moved and that became way more pressure. Right. So
Right.
I got a condo in the same building as my brother. And now we're just burning money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Imaginism Studios is born.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but we had a plan, and the plan was, um this is our plan. I was like, artists, this back then when not every artist had an art book, it was quite rare still.
Right.
And I was like, successful artists have art books,
Right.
but they can maybe put one out every 2 years, every 4 years, maybe every 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where our advantage comes in because we don't have jobs. We can make a bunch of books and we have just enough money pretty much to make 4 different books, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like 1,000 copies each or
Oh,
500.
okay.
Yeah, 1,000 copies each. And we applied for Comic-Con when you could still get tables pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a table as well. So it's like, okay, our money is going to last a little bit past Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's a pretty big investment for 1,000 books. Four
Yeah.
thousand or what 2 to 4,000 books. That's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, because you couldn't do a minimum print of like, a few hundred.
Right.
Nobody was doing
Yeah,
those kind
yeah.
of jobs.
Right, right.
So then we got the books together. We put together 4 books in 1 year, right? So every 3 months we had to finish a book.
And this is just like you're just creating artwork for the book, just kind of as
Yeah,
like a promotional thing of just
it's whatever I wanted to paint pretty much,
oh,
right?
that's cool. That's
So
cool.
I would pick a theme.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny for the people that know my art, because I asked a friend that sold books for like 20 years. I go, what are the good art books? What do people buy? And he was like, oh, for sure, it's girls.
Mm,
Guys buy girl art books. Girls buy girl art books, you know, books with girls in them.
right.
Do a book of girls. And I was like, okay, cool. So my first book was girl sketches. But anybody that knows my art, like I'm not that interested with beauty,
Right.
right? So my girl sketchbook is filled with like zombie child, um, biker grannies, these kind of things, right?
He probably assumed that you understood it was sexy girls, not just females, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So so I went to Comic-Con with a book about girl sketches. Cats and dogs sketches was the second one because I was like, well, people are either cat people or dog people. This one's gonna sell for sure. Totally didn't do well. The next one, I was like, well, I gotta be fair. I did a girl's book. I'll do a guy's books. I was like,
Uh,
boy books, boy
uh,
sketches. I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. I was like, okay, guy sketches. That doesn't sound as like pedophile-ish.
right.
So that was my third book, and my fourth book was creature sketches.
Okay, which is probably what you were really into,
That
right?
was exactly what I was into. So that one sold very, very quickly. And nowadays, if you find it on eBay or something, it's like hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. So we go to Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, with our little table, all of our prints and all this stuff. And the first person that's really noticeable or notable that comes along is a woman pushing her baby in a stroller, totally unassuming and looking at everything, looking all confused. And she goes, what is all this stuff? Like, because she sees so many images,
Mm-hmm.
right? And 4 art books. So it looks like we've been around for like 4 to 10 years. And she goes, how come I never heard of you? And Kay and I were just like, oh, that's because we're from Canada. Instead of saying we're new. She's like, oh,
That's
well, do you
smart.
do
Smart.
art for other people? And I was like, we're like, yeah, of course. We're thinking like flower store or something like that,
Right.
right? Who knows? Something small and insignificant. And she goes, well, let me give you my card. Gives me the card, and there's a little picture of the earth on there, and it says Universal across, and it's like Studio City and blah 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 blah, Studio Street or whatever, number 1. And I'm like,
Right.
what the hell? She's already left at this point. And then another person comes, and it's like DreamWorks, and then Disney, and then all these
Whoa.
people, right? So because we seemed credible, it seemed like we've been around for a while,
Mm-hmm.
so they can trust us.
Right.
And we're refreshing and new, like some
Right.
secret from you know. Yeah. And then then afterwards we got to work on a Tom Hanks project, project with the guy that directed Mulan, um,
Mm.
and a bunch of others like Jim Carrey and stuff like that, but none of them made it across the finish line
Oh, right.
because we were always working on pretty much like the very, very beginning. A lot of it was for pitch work.
Right.
And then, one day somebody reaches out to us and is like, Tim Burton is interested in you working on on a movie with him. And I'm like, what? Oh, what movie? And she's like, he's gonna make Alice in Wonderland. And I was like, oh my God, that's like the perfect movie. And actually, I literally have been kind of wanting to work with Tim Burton. If you asked me which director would you want to
Mm-hmm.
work with, I would say it immediately, and I would just say Tim Burton. And all of a sudden, this is happening.
Wow. That must have been
You
so
know?
exciting.
Yeah. And so they were like, do this test. Let's see what Absalom will look like, the caterpillar in live action. And then I stayed up like 24 hours, painted this thing because, I'm new, I'm dumb. How long will it take you? Oh, bust that out in one day, you know?
Right.
And then I handed in the next day, and then they put me in touch with Ken Ralston, right? And Ken Ralston, like Star Wars supervisor, Forrest Gump production designer, all this. And he goes, yeah, Tim wasn't really feeling it. And he goes, do you want to try again? And I was like, hell yeah. Can I ask my Kay, who's now my wife, but at the time, It's my girlfriend. And I was like, can I ask Kay to help me? Because I'm running on fumes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And also,
Were
it
you
doesn't
doing it
hurt.
there or were you doing it remotely?
No, I was doing it in Toronto, which wasn't a common thing at the time.
Oh, okay. So you didn't even need to tell them, really. You could have just had her help you. They wouldn't have known, probably, right?
Yeah, true. But, you know, then I'm taking credit for somebody else's
All
stuff. So
right.
I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
Right.
And imagine what would happen if the movie comes out and Kay's like, hey, I painted that
Right.
shit. Yeah,
Right. So you got her on too.
yeah, and stayed up another 24 hours, and she was like, okay, I was like, you draw it, I'll paint it, and then I took a nap. She got up, I got up, painted her stuff, handed it in, and then they're like, okay, let's do this.
Wow.
Yeah. And they asked me, they were like, can you come to London? Right? Because a bunch of the work was being done in London. And I was like, no, I can't. I'm teaching college. It's like, why did I just quit? But I was like, I have these responsibilities. Can it work if I work remotely? And so we stayed in Toronto. And so ever since then, if anybody ever asked, like, for us to move to LA or something, and I would say, let's work remotely,
Yeah.
and they would say, well, that won't work for us because it's back then. I would say, well, it worked for Tim Burton. Can we try for a little bit? And they say,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
It's so weird that well now with the pandemic and everything, it's people are
So
starting to
regular.
realize, yeah, it's like a normal thing now. But I turned down a job. I don't do a lot of film work now, but what was it? Noah? Was it Noah? The what's his name? The pie guy?
Gladiator.
No, the dude who directed Pie. What was that guy? Aronofsky. Am I getting it
I
screwed
thought it
up?
was the Asian guy that directed Pie.
I thought
But
that
you know what? I don't
no.
know.
Okay.
Life of Pi,
Didn't he do
or
him? No, I am. Didn't he
are you
do
talking about Pi the symbol or something?
Pie?
Like,
That weird. That was his first movie. That
oh, okay,
weird black and white
okay,
movie.
okay.
Aronofsky. He did.
Yeah, I was thinking of Life of Pi.
Oh,
So
okay,
never mind.
okay. But he did a movie called Noah or something, didn't he? Wasn't it Noah? Like, or was it some other biblical character?
With Russell Crowe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so I got randomly called to work on that to do designs, and they wanted me to go to New York, and I was just like, "Fuck no!" It was like in a day or two. It was like
Yeah.
I can't just drop everything. I mean, I guess if that's what you do, that's part of the gig, but um I just don't, the only with there's it's I think it's kind of like a control thing. They kind of want, not saying him or whatever, but production I think likes to feel like they're able to keep an eye on you if you're out there with them.
Makes sense. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes sense, but Zoom, now with Zoom, it's just like this is the way of the future. This is the way everything's going. And if you're a production company, I would have totally worked on that movie if they said, okay, yeah, we'll do it remotely. Of course, why not?
Yeah.
And that you have, productions have their choice of everyone if they go remotely. You have way more choices for what you want to do, but I just hate traveling, man. I just hate it.
I used to love traveling until this pandemic. Now, like, thinking about sitting on a plane for an extended period of time.
I mean, I like the adventure aspect of being in a new place. That's fun. I just don't like getting there. I don't like it's just such, especially it's really because I've been traveling since the 80s when I started working in the movie business. Like one of the first thing I worked on was they sent me to Italy. After like 3 weeks, they sent me to Italy for like 3 months or something to work on
Wow.
Cellar Dweller and these other total piece of shit movies. And but it was exciting and so cool. And I was 19 or 18 or something. And and it was just it wasn't that big a deal to fly like it is. And then after 9/11, it was like everything changed. You had to take your shoes off, you know, all that. It was so much more of a hassle, and it just never went back, you know. So so I just don't, other than road trips, I just do not like traveling. And you know, now with the metaverse coming, everyone's going to be in the matrix eventually anyway. You know, it's going to be like some kind of weird virtual world where everyone goes in VR and does everything, I'm sure, somehow.
Yeah, it's sad that you can't go back though.
I know, but you know, I don't know. It's cool that you can, you know, it's just like mass communication is amazing, even though you're, you know, doing it through a computer. It's kind of amazing that just the idea that we can talk together in real time and see each other, you know, that's something, you know, 100 years ago or whatever.
That was the kind of point when I felt like I was living in the future, when Skype came around.
Right.
And I could see the person I'm talking to. It's like,
Yeah,
how the hell does that work?
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's just like I was just watching those meta humans or something, you know. Have you seen those? That
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's like a series. Yeah,
it's like a cloud-based program that where you create realistic human figures for avatars for stuff that hasn't been created yet. They're like digital humans that look so real. It's like they're definitely like in that uncanny valley to where they look super real, but there's something creepy and weird about them. And you could, and I was just watching this morning, video, just a YouTube video about it. And, you know, eventually it's going to be like, you know, you suit up, however it's going to be, whether it's like a chip in your brain or your VR stuff, and we're going to be talking in the same room like this. And it's like, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference. I think it's going that way.
I've seen some cool technology just because I have the convention Lightbox Expo, and we did stuff online the last 2 years. I've been looking at a bunch of different technology, and one was a bunch of AR technology where it's like you have your camera on, you point it to your living room, and you could place the platform there, and it'll beam up your presenter.
Right.
So your presenter is presenting in your living room.
It's so cool. I just love that stuff. So your Lightbox.
Yes.
That's crazy. It's just like I put 2 and 2 together because I was watching some other interview on you, just doing some research, and you were talking about this convention you were doing. It's amazing. And it was in Pasadena, and it was like, that was one of those conventions I kept going, I gotta go to that. I gotta get a booth
you
there.
Gotta go for
and it's
sure.
It's because it's a big thing now, right? I mean, it's a pretty big convention.
We've been in Variety and Hollywood Reporter multiple times, in Forbes.
Wow.
Like all over the place. Our convention is sponsored, not just studios participating, but like sponsored by studios like Pixar, Weta Workshops.
Crazy.
Yeah, Disney, Netflix, everybody, you know. And it's where you go to meet the artists behind your favorite stuff, behind your favorite illustrations, games, movies, whatever.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's you've got so much going on. So it's okay. We've established how you got into the film industry. So why were you just not happy to stay in the film industry? Because now you've got a Schoolism, which is like an online school, and a podcast where you interview artists. You've got Lightbox Expo, and you did, had a TV show or a Netflix. Was
Yeah.
it a Netflix series
It
or
was
was it
Prime
Amazon or
Video.
okay,
Prime
yeah.
Video. Yeah.
That which is like that is the other thing I want to know. What was that like? Because that's kind of the dream, to do something of your own that gets turned into a TV show. And it's like, was it a nightmare or was it super cool or was it a mixture of? I always wonder
Yeah.
if something takes off, like something I'm doing, like if the dystopia project ends up getting made into a TV show or a movie. It's like, what if it's terrible? What if it's awful? What if it's like all these people telling you and changing your thing and it ends up being terrible or,
Well, hold on to that thought, right? So,
and
how it
how
came
did you get
about,
it started? Yeah. How did that happen?
right? So, how it came about, this is when we have Imaginism Studios and we have the online school, schoolism.com, which was, as far as I know, the first online art school
Oh,
in the
wow.
world.
Really?
Yeah,
That must have been difficult to do if it's the first one.
that was actually super simple because there was no other choice,
Oh,
and so,
okay. But I mean, just implementing how to do something like that when it
oh
hasn't been done
yeah, it's like
before.
you have no idea. Same with all these other ones, right?
Right.
And so, anyways, I have some friends that I went to school with. They moved to the UK for like 10 years. Then they came back to Toronto, one to live here, the other one to visit or something. And so I had them over at my place and we're just chatting about what they've been doing. And what they've been doing is like mostly just creating pitches, selling the options for them, and then being depressed because they're never made,
Right. That's what I
right?
hear about. I know I have friends who have options on projects and it for like 10 years, 15
Oh
years it's
yeah,
been going on. And
exactly.
they'll keep rebuying it. It's like paying them
Yeah,
to sit on this idea.
exactly. So I share, like we share our stories because we've sold IPs before and they never got made, or they got messed with so much by the time they give it back to you, you're like, what is this? You don't recognize your own baby, right?
Right.
Um, and so we start sharing these kind of war stories, and then I go to them, I'm like, you know what? Now with this new thing, the iPad, it's, now we can make our own thing as an app and put it out there in the world. Nobody's messed with it yet. It's in its purest form.
Right.
It's in the intention of the creators. And then the world can choose whether or not this is a good idea or bad idea.
Right.
And then so they go, that's an amazing idea. And then I'm like, oh shit, I guess we'll have to do it. Right. And so we spend like 2 years, weekends, late nights working on this thing about a boy that is meant to grow up to be trained to become the protector of the world. And that's what his dad did, and so on
Mhm.
and so forth, and his mom and stuff like that. Um, but something happens when he's 10 years old and he needs to save the world now, but all he has is this heirloom that was passed down to him that he doesn't even understand how to really use, and
Mhm.
it's the sword of light. um, and so it's the story resonates with us because it's like a lot of the opportunities that we're given in life, it's never when we're ready for them,
Oh, right. 100%. Never.
right? It's rare. It's
Mhm.
rare. So that's the inspiration behind
That's a cool
the
idea. It's a
right.
cool, yeah.
And it was also, check this out. So it was also during a time, this is like, this is in the teens, 2000, you know, 13, 14 or something like that, when we first came up with the idea and
Mhm.
everything. And I have, I try to think about what's this decade about? You know, what makes this decade different from the other decade and this and that? And I was thinking that 2010 to 2020 is going to be all about heroes, right?
Wow.
It's like, why? Well, this is before all the Marvel craziness.
Yeah,
There was
you
Iron
predicted.
Man, that was it. But even without Iron Man, the thought behind it was because of social media. Social media shows, shows Justin Bieber farting. It shows J-Lo, tripping or whatever. It
Right.
shows all of your heroes, your would-be heroes, and pokes holes in all of them.
Right. Shows that they're
Right.
just human.
So now we're living in a time where we don't actually have that pure hero anymore.
Right.
And so where will people go for their heroes? Because we've always had heroes.
Right.
Back to like Zeus and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right. It's part of the human need.
Exactly. So if we would, back then, we would go to stories for our heroes. Now our stories are shown on the big screen.
Right.
So whatever I was to do, like during that decade, I would try to attach myself to projects that were about heroes. And so in this case, we made our own hero.
That's very insightful. That's pretty cool. I mean, you kind of predicted it.
Yeah. And so, but it gets kind of even cooler because after 2 years of our off time working on this thing, our own money being put into this thing because we have to make an app now. Right.
What was the idea? The app's going to show the show, the like a streaming app for this one show, kind of.
Right. That wouldn't do well.
Right.
Right. That wouldn't do well. So instead we go, yeah, that's not going to do well. Let's make an animated comic book.
Oh, cool.
Right. So there were some animated book kind of things on the iPad, but it's all like symbol animation. There was one that was really well done, which was computer animation, but there's nothing that was 2D like traditional animation. And that was perfect because we wanted that. We wanted a child to feel like their book is coming to life. The drawings are coming to life.
Right.
Right. So you need drawings on there. You don't want like CG models and stuff. And so every panel, you touched on the panel and it would come to life with sound, animation, voice, everything.
That's so cool.
Right. And it was the first of its kind as well, of a traditionally animated, hand-drawn animation comic book. And then we are ready to release it into the world. You have to get approval from Apple first and the iTunes store or whatever. We get that approval, we hit it, launch it, and it's crickets, Chet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. There's like no sales. And then we're like, okay, let's work harder. And at this point, we're expecting some sort of bumps in the road. So everybody's ready. We're still positive. We keep moving forward. It's what we're expected. And so after, I think like maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks, I get this email, and it's from this guy that says that he's in charge of the App Store, globally, because there's a person in charge of every country's App Store. And this guy was like the guy that wore the ring that controlled them all kind of thing, right? And he's like, I got to tell you, my son is a big fan of your comic book.
Wow.
And he goes, I see that you put in like a thing to approve an update for your app. I suggest you do that immediately. Right? It's been approved. Launch it immediately. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. And so I go to the App Store and I see the banner across the freaking app store says Nico and the Sword of Light, my comic book, our comic book. I'm like, oh my God. And then you could go to the site called App Annie. I don't know if it's still around, but you can find out the rankings of your app.
Mm-hmm.
So we look there and we see our app is featured, right? Featured in America, in Canada, in Germany, in like India, in like all these giant markets.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we're in #1 in all those countries now. And then by the end of the week, we were like featured in like 21 countries or something like that.
Whoa.
And then we were #1 in our category for over 30 countries. And then everybody started to call, like,
amazing.
right? And going, your comic book should be a TV show. It should be a movie. Guess what, Chet? Like if you add up all the duration of all of the animation, it just happened to add up to 22 minutes.
Right.
Right? And it's like their brilliant idea. I got an idea. It should be a TV show. It's, oh, wow, that's a good idea. I never thought of that. And so we ended up with Amazon because we were thinking, okay, Amazon's really starting to get, crazy with the streaming.
Mm-hmm.
They also sell a ton of stuff, and we're just hoping that it would be like, okay, this TV show, you like it, you could click on a button, buy some merch, whatever. Unfortunately, I think we're a little bit too ahead of
Right.
the time or whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
that didn't happen. But our show got a pilot. We signed a deal, we developed a pilot, and there's 5 or 6 other pilots that were developed at the same time, and we're all pitted against each other. Right. So the show that won was about these talking trucks. It's like, yeah, that's the hit. Hey, it might have been a great movie, but I felt like, it's because of cars or something like that.
Totally.
And so our show gets shelved. Right. But the studio that made the show, that produced the show, Titmouse Animation, bless their hearts, they sent in the pilot episode for the daytime Emmys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we got nominated for best children's programming for that year, just from the pilot, which that's never happened where the pilot won.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
And so we were the first.
Wow. Amazing.
So we won the Emmy. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, you know what? We're greenlit. Right. And so we do the first season. The second season also gets nominated for the same thing. Yeah. So it was a great ride.
Wow. So I mean, when this is happening, did you get an entertainment lawyer? And there's so much that there's so many stories of people getting ripped off and just not getting paid, and it seems scary. Like you need to start, I don't know.
Well, we did get a lawyer, for like a specialized lawyer for signing the deal with Amazon, because we wouldn't take the standard deal. This was the other great thing. We didn't make a pitch and then pitch it to them. Right?
They were coming to you, so then you were able to kind of like set your terms.
Yeah. And we have numbers, right? This was #1 in such and such, how many different countries and how many different downloads and all this like crazy numbers. We're not signing that standard contract.
That's excellent.
Right. And so we put it out there in the App Store because if we sold this idea, we didn't want people to mess with it.
Right.
And, all of a sudden, yeah, can you put in this dog in there and a turtle?
Right. Yeah. That's another thing I wanted to ask is was that part of the deal? You had full creative control on the
no, we didn't. You
Or you just
know,
got lucky that they didn't screw it up, or what?
well, I feel like it was a good partnership. We lucked out with the executive that we got.
Mhm.
Um, her and I, we've exchanged, messages and things like that over the years, but just never found a good opportunity to work together.
Mhm.
So that was great. Um, but I think the main thing was, do you want to be the person that makes that decision to put some owl in there when this thing as an app, it's a hit,
Right. It's already, yeah, don't it ain't,
right?
yeah, if it ain't
You
broke, don't
put in
fix it.
enough things in there, I'm blaming you,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Everybody's blaming you. And that's what executives are really good at avoiding
Yeah.
blame, right? So I think that really helped.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the key to the success, really, is doing it yourself the way you wanted to see it, and then getting the numbers on your own and having them come to you rather than if you go, if you had gone to pitch to them and they said, okay, then it would have been, you would have had to sign the shittiest deal possible because it's like,
Exactly. And I gotta mention Rob Hoagie. He was the showrunner that was brought in, uh the writer, showrunner. I didn't want to show run it. I have other things I gotta do.
right,
I can't stop everything and just do this.
right.
Um yeah, and so he's awesome, and he really is one of the creators of the show as well.
That's great. So you were hooked up with good people too.
Yeah, and he's worked in the business for many years before that, and that was his first Emmy. So that's great.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So amazing. And this was how many years ago that this had its run?
Um, I want to say 2016 was the year we got our Emmy. So that was the first season.
Crazy. It's so
Yeah.
cool. I mean, what, and then did that lead to other projects like that you're trying to do, or is it just, or have you changed? You have so much going on between your own art studio and your own career, and I know you mentioned doing like commission paintings and running an online school and having this Lightbox Expo. It's
People have
like,
asked. People have
and
asked, like, are you working on anything else? You got anything else you want to pitch? This and that. I'm like, I do have some stuff, but it's half baked. It's not ready to pitch yet. Um,
that's pretty cool. You're just like, get back to me later. Maybe I'll have something together for you. I'm too busy for you right now.
it's totally probably not the best thing. Probably not the best answer
I don't
or
know.
anything.
I sometimes that kind of, if you're so in demand that most people would be like, yeah, let me get, it's totally like this weird Zen kind of thing about being not in a position to where you're begging someone, but
Yeah.
they're in the position of asking you, and you're doing something for them.
Well,
That's kind of like
that's
the ultimate.
something I mentioned before to like the newer kids. It's like, don't be that desperate dude at the high school dance that asks every girl to
Right.
dance.
Yep.
Be the popular girl in that dance. She doesn't ask anybody. She just
Right.
works on herself, works on her own shit, and people come to her.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
so much like the industry, right?
right. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how you get in a position of to where you can, get the best deal for yourself. I think even on like a cosmic level, this is the way to approach life in a way, like even on the sort of, I don't want to say spiritual level, but it's like I've often said that, you know, in my deep thoughts. I mean, I not like it's some great realization, but I've equated it before to like, if you're interacting with the universe, with reality, um, trying to manifest your dreams into reality, what you want your life to be. You approach it like you would, and I'm a man, so I'm taking this from a man's perspective. I'm a heterosexual man, so I'm equating it to a man and a woman. So it's like if you're if you're wanting to impress this woman or get her to like you, you don't act desperate, you don't get too clingy, you don't come on too strong. It's like there has to be a like an attitude of confidence to some degree, and not desperation, because like nobody finds desperation attractive in any situation, really. So
especially money or success, they
right.
do not like that kind of shit at all.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So that's how I say it, like on almost like on a cosmic level, like treat the universe as a a mate you are trying to not seduce, but trying to get to be to become attractive to. It's like, don't approach the universe in a desperate, graspy, whiny way. It's like you have to kind of play that same kind of game a little bit with the universe in order to get a good response on like this kind of cosmic level.
It totally is like some sort of cosmic or some sort of natural kind of thing.
Like a principle, like a underlying principle kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's and it's like
laws of attraction.
Right. Yeah. And it's like looking at your success, how old are you? You're young, right?
I'm 40 something at this point. Yeah.
So you're
youngish.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's still youngish.
It's young to me.
Yeah.
I just turned 54. But
well, your marker keeps going further and further out.
Right. The older you get, the older the younger old is, I guess.
Yeah.
But you've accomplished a lot of different things, and the way that you were able to get this show done, I'm thinking that you probably have had this kind of attitude for all these different projects you've been able to manifest with, not this total, as much as you're like, it seems like you've busted your ass and worked hard, but you don't seem like a desperate kind of person. No, I don't think you get that kind of success being desperate and grasping. That's what they say in Zen Buddhism, or I don't know if it's just Buddhism in general. It's like no grasping, don't grasp. It's like the worst thing you can do. It's all about letting go, so I imagine you've kind of taken that approach with like all of your projects because you're so successful with them.
For me, it's always been about put your effort into things that make you more attractive, more helpful, more useful, and try to get into that mode of being able to play the long game.
Right.
And not everybody's able to play the long game, but the faster you put yourself into that kind of a position, the more you'll see like it all kind of comes together.
Right.
So well.
Yeah. That's often I'll say, especially in fine art, it's like even more true. It's like, you might get lucky and be making money in a couple of years, maybe, but probably it's going to be like a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year thing before it starts to really, pan out in a way that you were imagining. So, but that's why everybody doesn't do it, because it takes a long time.
Well, it does take a certain kind of person, a certain kind of personality, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Wow, it's interesting and so impressive. What's going on now? I mean, we're getting to like, we're almost at the 2-hour point, and I don't want to keep you all day, but
I probably got to go soon. But
yeah. But what's new? What's the next thing for you?
exciting stuff for me right now is some. So there's one that I'm part owner of this software company. It's called
Another crazy thing.
Jeez. So it's called magmastudio.io,
Okay.
right? And or .com. If people go to magmastudio.com, they'll find a free software program there. They don't need to download it. It's all browser based. So even if you have the shittiest laptop in the world, the shittiest computer that like a Chromebook it can't install programs.
Right.
You can use this art program and you
cool.
can do professional level work. I've done professional level work on this program. So you do not need any other art program if you don't have access. It's for free. You can pay a subscription and then you get, other features and things like that. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You could, use it for free, and you can paint with up to 30 people at the exact same time on the exact same canvas.
Wow.
Right?
That's
like
crazy.
No lag, right? You can literally, if you have the subscription, you could talk to each other through the program as well.
That's amazing.
Right? So think about when we used to go drinking and drawing during these conventions and stuff. You could literally drink and draw kind of thing on the same computer almost, right? Like on the same document.
Wow.
Yeah, and so our hopes for that is that it'll give especially underserved communities, underserved kids, things like that, equal standing to be able to, work on their digital art before they can afford a beautiful Cintiq monitor and all this other stuff. Because you could use this on your phone, even any device that connects to the internet.
That's amazing. So that's kind of like the thing you're focusing on right now is
and there's one other little thing. So I'm an advisor for this nonprofit, this new nonprofit. It's called the Superhero Project. So we gather families, we gather kids with serious illnesses, sometimes terminal illnesses, things like that. And we pair them up with professional artists, like some of the best in the world. Like Ian McKegg has joined us before and stuff like that. And so the child would come up with a superhero idea, right? Like insulin woman. And so she shoots little needles into all the kids that need their insulin, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And then the artist would create that for them.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right. And it just gives them, good vibes and things to shoot for and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
So it's called a Superhero Project.
Wow. So and it just never ends with you.
Hopefully it does. Hopefully it does.
You get so much stuff going on. It's so
I gotta stop taking new stuff.
Yeah. I hear you, believe me. Wow. Well, I hopefully I could have you on again, because there's so many more things. I mean, we hardly talked about your art even. There's so many different things that I didn't even get to. So hopefully you can come on in the future again. We'll do another podcast.
I'd be happy to. Happy to.
Excellent.
Last thing, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah.
The Schoolism, if this is playing November 29th or later, Schoolism is having a wicked awesome sale right now. It's our winter sale. We only have 2 sales a year. With Schoolism, when you subscribe to Schoolism, it's kind of like Netflix for artists. You get access to everything on Schoolism, all the courses.
That's awesome.
Except when you binge these videos, it's really good for you.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so usually you can pay for an entire year Well, you could always pay for an entire year. Right now, if you go to Schoolism, you'll save over 30% off if you subscribe for a year. That's
Excellent.
a lot.
That's great. And there's tons of amazing stuff on there too. Amazing teachers and classes. So shit, maybe I'll do it.
Yeah. Let me know.
Cool. Wow. Well, yeah. Okay. So I've got you on tape. We're on video saying that you're going to come back on. So I'm going to hold you to that. So we can go more. Cause like I said, I could definitely keep going for another 2 hours. So, yeah, super great to have you on. Really appreciate you taking the time. Very interesting, excellent conversation. Amazing work you're doing. I'm totally impressed with everything. And, you know, like I said, we didn't even touch on your art, which is amazing. So yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
It's my honor, Chet. Big fan of you. And yeah, let's do this again.
All right, cool. So we got to say goodbye, audience. That's what we do at the end of the podcast. So say goodbye.
Right. Bye, audience.
Goodbye, audience.